And real quick, before I start this episode, I do want to say that this song does deal with relationships, and this might be a good episode for a lot of people, men, women, but non-binary, really anybody that has the idea of love or the idea of a relationship should be perfect, but also they understand that sometimes relationships are one-sided. I think this will be a good episode that you will enjoy. So I hope you enjoy the episode. We can assume that there are a few people that have heard of Cat Burns, and that's just because you know a lot of artists do not become famous from what they end up making until a lot of artists do not end up making tons of tons of waves or break the mainstream unless they have an artist that is a popular artist that they decide to get a feature from. However, Cat Burns, for me, that's not how I got familiar with her music. I got familiar with her music through just randomly searching through music because I've been listening to a lot of United Kingdom music or London music to be specific, and she's a London artist, so I thought it'd be perfect to talk about her. But there's not much information on her to talk about her song. So Cat Burns, and I know people are gonna look it up and be like, "Hey, is it Cat Burns?" Yes. I searched up and it was Cat Burns the artist, because just to limit your terms so you know what you're actually looking for. Um, she released a song called "Go," which I think is a good song that you should listen to. It's about relationships and that it's okay to fail, but we'll get into that. However, she's listed as a musician but also a singer, so that's always good to know because you have some people that are listed as artists that can do multiple things, but they have her listed as a musician and a singer, which I think is a great way to be listed, to be more well known. But she is a London and UK artist, so we're gonna look at this song called "Go." She recently released. Um, but let's real quick. Let's just see if we have any responses.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
So her song called "Go," it's not disappointing at all. I think going into this, I was questioning. I said, so what does she have that a lot of artists do not have? And I think it comes down to storytelling, because she's able to talk about this relationship that she was in and how things naturally went bad because I guess they were sharing an apartment or they were sharing a room at the university. Because she says, they're sharing an apartment because she says she pulls up to the university to check on you after you missed a bunch of her voicemails, which I think happens. In a lot of relationships, people aren't, well, we have to get past the stigma of people saying that people are always around their phone and if they want to text you, they will, which is true to some people. That is true. However, to a lot of people, that's not ethically possible. So we get to hear her talk about how she put up to university, and I guess y'all talked about the situation where she said you made a promise, now you pack up your stuff and go because I've caught you cheating again, which I think is hard for a lot of people. They get into relationships and they're like, okay, well, I should leave because they broke my boundaries, but truthfully, depending on what they did, certain things are just definitely unacceptable. So I can understand, but you also have to be set in your boundaries of what you're gonna accept and what you're not gonna accept, which Cat Burns does great in the song to explain how love shouldn't be one-sided. Relationships should be two people that agree on certain rules, which I think is a great way to say it. But she called it "you played around," she said you played around, and I think we can assume she's talking about cheating. And I think that's probably the hardest thing for a lot of people to go through. They're like, so why can't I trust this person that I have decided to go into a relationship with? I can't trust them anymore because of what they have caused. And that's true to what her next line is I can't trust you no more. It's true. There are certain situations and certain actions that people do, consciously or unconsciously, that they do that make you untrust them. And for certain situations, you can't trust them anymore because of how bad they hurt you. But that's also saying to listen to your heart and your feelings, but listen to your heart, which I think is a good way to, say that in a song, because a lot of people express themselves through songs. So a person going through a breakup or going through an issue or a problem, and then being like, okay, well, that's understandable because a lot of people go through it. So I can get over, which I think is a good way to handle the situation, and saying that I just can't trust you no more because of what you've done, hurt my soul, and broke some boundaries, which I think is acceptable way to handle it. There's I'm not saying go crazy, but then she also adds to the end of the song, like one of the final outros, she says, I should have listened to my friends. As the chorus, I should have listened to my friends. So it's the chorus and then the outro, and then it's two choruses and then an outro, and she says, I should have listened to her friends, which is a hard thing to talk about, because they're like, sometimes your friends are against you, but sometimes you should listen to your friends, because sometimes they see stuff that you can't see from a third person point of view, which I think is good, but we don't really get that in a lot of songs, especially Americans. I don't think get a lot of songs about situations where we should talk about boundaries, trust, and stuff like that, where in other European music, they're like, okay, we set this boundary, you didn't do it, so we're gonna move on. I can't trust you no more, which I think is a great way to set a picture in a song that we don't really get a lot of knowledge from. But basically, she realizes that the person she is with is playing games. But I think this could go for any really relationship. It doesn't have to be he, her. It can be really anybody, which I think is a good way, because she doesn't really mention it. She just talks about going through a breakup or going through a situation where she couldn't trust, but she was in a relationship anymore. And I think that quality of like R&B sound or just music in general, we don't have enough anymore. So I think with her doing this and creating a song, I do think it's a better song than what I've heard recently from other artists. And for her not to get like break mainstream, which a lot, sadly a lot of artists don't. But this song right here out of her is definitely a 8.1 out of 10 for me, because it's just so great. It has great points to it, but it also conveys a message that a lot of songs in America don't anymore. So 8.1 out of 10.